What's it like having a career filled with playing serial killers, Nazis, and Charles Manson? You're about to find out. Erik Passoja is here. We're talking about that and more. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm excited to introduce you to my next guest, actor, comedian, fifth degree black belt. Welcome to the show, Erik Passoja. What's up?
Thank you, Jeff. How's it hanging? Detroit, LA, what?
What?
Speed of light, instant communication. I'm here, you're there. We're not seeing each other. We're seeing representations of each other and hearing legacy audio. It's beautiful.
This is amazing. What a world we live in. So, fifth degree black belt. So, are you more Eagle Fang or Miyagi-Do, or Cobra Kai?
Oh, I'm definitely 100% Cobra Kai. I think you need to go for the knee. I think, especially if he's thin, vulnerable, and doesn't really know the martial arts, you got to just take that knee out right away. No, I was a kid when I saw it, obviously. And I had been training since I was 4. So I was in my teens when I saw it. What I liked most about it is the original film is Mr. Miyagi had him do repetitive movements, up, down, on, off, all that work. And that's what we do in the martial arts. I can't tell you how many punches I've done, but it must be in the hundreds of thousands over time. And it's that one movement. And, everybody has what's called the tokuiwaza, which is, the favorite technique. And you just drill it over and over and over and over again. And what I loved about that film is it really was about dedicating yourself to the boredom of doing something and then using it in an applicable situation. So I dug that.
Yeah, I wax on, wax off. I mean, people still
I know.
And the lessons. Do you watch Cobra Kai? Like, how real is it? Like with the karate, like when you watch, sometimes when you know something and you watch something, you're like, oh.
Honestly, it's hard for me to watch martial arts because, Kill Bill, for example, Uma Thurman, he's like, I trained for months for that. Well, really? Because you just beat the hell out of 75 professional martial artists. You have to suspend your disbelief when you're watching Cobra Kai, but as a martial artist, the movie Black Swan is a good example. All the ballet dancing in that film, I was like, this is amazing. Natalie Portman was great, and all the ballet dancers were like, yeah, no. It's just what it's the extension of the hand and the gesture and the fingers together and all that comes after doing that for 15 years, 6 hours a day, I doubt Natalie Portman's feet broke over the process of that, but all these, ballet dancers on point have broken most of their toes. Like, I can see the difference. Now, let me give you another example, though. I saw Lethal Weapon 4 for the first time, not having watched a lot of Kung Fu movies. And the instant I saw Jet Li standing, I'm like, who is that guy? I didn't realize he was an international martial artist, but just the way he was flicking through those beads and standing and keeping that perfect distance. And then he moved. I was like, this guy. Donnie Yen is another one. I didn't really know his work, but he swung a bow staff and went, whew. I'm like, that is a person who knows how to swing a weapon. You could just tell immediately.
That's awesome. That's great insight. That is great insight. But yeah, it's like when you know something and then it happens on screen, you're like, and everyone else is like, I love it. And you're like,
yeah, but it's fine. I appreciate the conversation about the martial arts, and I appreciate that, in things like Cobra Kai, the goal is to not fight. The goal is to avoid situations. And I'm going to knock on wood, but I haven't been in serious situations since I started training seriously.
Well, that's good. Let's hope that continues.
Well, here's the thing, by the way. I'm never afraid of the big guys. The big guys have to spend their entire lives being nice to people so people aren't terrified of them. It's a little guy with the cauliflower ears you got to be really careful of. And most of those guys get it all out in school, though. They're getting it out at the dojo. They're rolling around. They're choking each other out. So when they're on the street, it's not usually the martial artists I'm worried about. It's the people who don't get enough fighting in.
So I gotta say, I was watching your YouTube channel and I was digging deep. I kind of went a little bit into the archives, into
Oh,
the Eric
wow.
archives. So, but since we're on this topic, it was a lot of you had a couple with a lot of a lot of views. Mind Like Water. It was a
Yeah.
51,000 views, but it was what goes through a person's head when he's held up at gunpoint. And I mean, it's short. It wasn't that long, and it was a video, and it was fascinating. Because you talk
Wow.
about kind of these things, but in a mugging situation, that was really cool. By the way,
Thank you. I was right before, right after 9/11, and I woke up one night in the middle of the night. I'm like, I got this idea for a short film, and I wrote it down, and I wrote it in a day. And then, it took me 2 years to make because I did it all alone on my, what was it? Was it the 5G Macintosh computer? I did all the visual effects for it. It was what it was. But it's the story of someone who walks away from a situation that would have been deadly, even though this person knows they would have had the physical upper hand on his opponent. There's a surprise element that has him realize that he made the good decision to walk away from that fight.
yeah, it was brilliant. I found it fascinating because it wasn't just like a little short movie of a guy getting mugged. I mean, you go into the whole philosophy of how to survive this event and play through the different scenarios. I thought it
I'm
was
tickled you watched that. Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate that.
oh
Yeah,
my,
yeah. Mushin, mind like, well, actually, it really is. Mushin means no mind. Uh, what is it? Seishin no kokoro, which truly means mind like water. So in a way, it was a mistranslation, but it's the same idea. You empty your head and you don't fill it with anything, and you allow the moment to decide what you're going to do. Which, by the way, works perfectly for stand-up comedy and acting. That's really where you need to be.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. Got to kind of be in that moment. So you're a comedian, actor. Like, what's your origin story, Eric? How did you? I know your parents are like all geniuses, and where you come from. Yeah,
Yeah, this meteorite struck near my house. No, I,
like
yeah, I'm like, what? I have to audition for this. Well, we did it with 4 actors because you're not going to take 2 high school students and do that. But I remember opening night, the whole school was there. I was downstairs in the bathroom from this really nice sized, beautiful theater. And I remember going through each of my characters going, all right, Petey Fisk, vulnerable. I really love animals. I'm really scared of people. I'm really shy. And I went through all my characters and I realized now looking back, I was doing method acting work right then. And I was 15 years old. And it just evolved until I was a straight math and theater major, and then a chemistry and theater major. And then I said, screw it, psychology and theater major. And then I did a psychoanalytic profile of Richard III, and then I played the role. Like that was it. I was just going to be an actor. And that's what I do. I'm grateful to be able to do it.
where does comedy come into this timeline? Where because you've done that for decades as well. So
Can I
that's
can I curse on this show?
sure.
What a waste of fucking time that was. No, it was. I was I was on tour with a French English production of The Miser by Moliere, and I was playing Harpagon, the lead. And I mean, I was 21 years old. We were getting $273 a week, and they were putting us up in Motel Sixes. Like, there's no way you could even make enough living to go on the road. I don't know where they think we. Somehow I made it through. I remember seeing the movie Aladdin at the time, and I really experienced how much fun Robin Williams was having. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, he is probably one of the greatest comedy minds ever to walk the earth. An eidetic memory, a cauldron of jokes, complete freedom, willingness to improvise. And by the way, sometimes he was improvising and it wasn't. He would just dip into this cauldron of jokes. Sometimes they weren't his own. I get it. But I said, I want to do that. And so I wrote some comedy while I was on the road. And I had been doing improv for years. So I was on an improv open mic show. And they said, hey, we're also bringing stand-up comics on. If you think you're funny, jump on. And I'm like, all right, let me get a couple of beers. And then I did. And then I just did comedy professionally for years and years and years in New York and then here in LA, I did the road, did colleges, and I quit last year. I'm done with comedy, at least for
I've
now.
never heard of somebody being able to quit comedy. I haven't done it as much, but there's an old saying that you never can quit.
but yeah, but that's not true. Like, let's look at Mike Royce, who wrote Everyone Loves Raymond. I mean, I used to perform with Mike at the Comedy Cellar. So did Ray, by the way. Mike became a major writer showrunner. David J. Nash is another comic who became a major writer showrunner. I know Tim Allen has jumped on stage since his acting stuff, and I think he put together a special. But Jim Carrey's not doing stand up. There were a lot.
No, you're right. You're right.
Now there are people like Eddie Izzard, who like my other favorite comic of all time. I see him live whenever I can. I saw him do a show at Largo a couple of years ago. He went on at midnight, did 2 hours and 10 minutes of the most hysterical comedy I've ever seen. It was like seeing Jimi Hendrix in his prime. And I, a comic, this as well, I laughed. How often do we I laughed? I belly laughed. Like, he's got to do it.
That's awesome. Yeah, well, maybe the old saying is, if you don't have a multi-million-dollar entertainment career, that followed it. But you're right.
Oh, yeah,
I saw Tim Allen. I saw one of those shows. I got a chance to work. I actually worked with Tim Allen. I did a benefit show in Detroit. Well, I think it was one of his very first returns to comedy. He did like 20 minutes. Mm-hmm. And that was fun. And he did a secret show at Mark Ridley's Comedy Castle, like where he did 45 minutes. And so, it's fun to see. It's hard though, right? So I think Eddie Murphy was talking about this because he was trying to do stuff. When you become that famous and you try and go back with technology now and people leaking stuff, it's hard to because people don't really understand the process. And they don't understand that you suck. Jokes suck before they become brilliant, right?
Well, Dave Chappelle and Louis C.K., they have people put their phones in these pouches and close them. So, even so, when Dave had that really hard set, was that in Detroit? Where yes. He was,
yes.
Yeah, it was when he had that hard Detroit set. Someone got some film of that, so it still happens. And yeah, the best comedians on the planet, they try their new stuff out and it dies. And that's what the topic of Seinfeld's Comedian movie was about. Is about him going back to stand up and saying, "All right, I'm going up with no material, and I'm gonna bomb for a while," And that's the deal. Yeah, it's tough. Me, I'm a homebody, Jeff. My creativity is very quiet, can be very cerebral. It's very from the gut, and I don't like being in a hotel in Cleveland. I don't like, going to the airport and flying to Kansas and then driving 4 hours to Manhattan, Kansas, and then doing a gig for either 10 or 1,000 people and then driving all the way back and taking the flight back. That's a nightmare for me. And there are some people, some dear friends who are phenomenal headliners. Some you've heard of, some you haven't heard of, who do cruise ships and live for it. They live for that stuff. Me, every day on set is a good day. Every day on set, people are like, "Thanks for coming." I'm like, "Are you kidding? Are you kidding, dude?"
I don't disagree with that about the comedy. It's like, I think somebody brought up Indiana the other day, and I remembered the Red Roof Inn I had to stay in for 3 days and how depressing that was. It's, alone. And it's not, when I'm on stage, right? And I bet if you got on stage and even just did 20 minutes, you'd be like, "This is fantastic." Like once you get that rush, but once I'm off stage, I don't need to go back on until I'm forced to go back on stage. But there is nothing better than being on stage and making people laugh. I love it so much. I imagine you get the same high acting,
yes, but know what you said. Go on stage and do 20 minutes. Name me anyone who can go on stage and do 20 minutes and make a living. Now, you can go on stage and do 45 minutes, do an hour and make a living. That's after you show up 3 days early and you do radio and they drop the check in the middle of your set. And the entire crowd has to be there to see you or you don't go back to the venue. And the second show on a Friday night, everyone was working all week. They went out to dinner with their work friends. They got shit-faced and they came to the club, had 2 more drinks, and now they're heckling. and that's the set where you're going to try your new material. You know what? Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
I can't disagree with any of that.
And by the way, yes, I mean seriously, Jeff, you could throw me up in the air. I'd land on my feet right now, and I'd do a set for anyone. 20 minutes, no problem. But
I just meant to get
yeah,
that high again. Is what
yeah,
I meant. Yeah.
hell yeah, I might do that, but I'm not gonna write a Netflix special and go and do 700 sets to get ready for it, and then get done with it and be like, who's gonna buy it?
Right. It's not easy now, and Netflix flooded everything. There's like 1,000 comedy things on Netflix.
And some really good ones, by the way, some
Sure.
really good comedy sets. I mean, that's how Bill Burr got famous, really through his Netflix sets. And the guy's a beast. I mean, I started with him. He's amazing. So there's a
He's hilarious. I love Bill Burr. Love so many funny people. So all right, so you're classically trained, Yale, fancy, fancy.
or as some people might pronounce it, jail. Um, I went to Yale. It was best 4 years of my life so far. Don't tell my wife and kids. It really was a great experience. I was not going there like I'm an actor. Although my freshman year it became that. I ended up in the music and science residential college there, and the people who surrounded me blew my mind. I mean, my best friend in college was a nuclear physicist. There were two guys one was a pianist and a clarinetist. They were both engineers. There was a guy who became a serious businessman in San Francisco. One guy, my roommate Sanjeev, he ran out of Yale physics courses his freshman year and had to go to MIT. Like, those were the people I was hanging with, and it raised the bar in everything I did. You can't, I mean, you might be a genius and not study and do okay, but everybody else there is smart. So if you're in a class, you better do the work, because it's not like, an easy school where you don't have to do your homework. At the same time, 3,500 smart women. Oh my gosh, it was the best. It was the best.
Uh,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah, and that's where I learned how to do Shakespeare. That's where I fell in love with Shakespeare. And Shakespeare is probably is my favorite thing to do. It really is.
What's your favorite play or role?
Oh, Richard III, for sure. I joke that, on TV and film, I've played more serial killers than there have been serial killers. And I've been playing Nazis longer than World War II happened, and I'm Jewish. But one of the things I love about Richard III is it is possible to be a funny villain as Richard III. And with comedy and being able to express my dark side, it's a romp. Plays a romp.
You'd be a funny king in Hamilton.
Oh yeah, boy, he was tremendous. What's his name from Manhunt? Can't remember his name right offhand. He's a tremendous actor. What I loved about his work in Hamilton is he was so still. He was so tremendously still, unless, which was very royal, unless he was trying to make a point, and then he hit it like a sledgehammer, and yet his voice expressed all the inner life. Everyone's going, I know his name, and I'm just sitting here going, yeah, I'm 53, I'm forgetting shit.
That is an impressive comedic role. I mean,
Oh,
for everything that happens on Hamilton, and if you haven't seen the play, go fast forward to the scenes on Disney Plus. But it's amazing when you're actually there, and there's like a million people dancing around and doing all this, and then just this one guy comes out and just owns the entire theater for the time.
Jonathan Groff, that's who it was.
Amazing. All right, so
well, yeah. By the way, his comedy was three gestures. At one point, he goes, "Ah!" and the audience loses it, but the rest was completely still. So he was able to say, "I know that this is a good comic. A lot of good comics do this. Long setups. Dave Chappelle, long setups. But when he does the punchline, he knows we're going to laugh. And that's what Groff did with that. Yeah.
It's brilliant. It's brilliant. All right. So Nazis. So, all
Ah,
right. So probably probably the greatest shtick to a Nazi would be as a Jew playing a Nazi. You can't think of anything that would annoy a Nazi more than a Jew playing a Nazi. So good on you.
thank you very much. I was doing that to really stick it to the Nazi. Yeah, well, actually, it's funny. Nazis aren't really Nazis anymore. I think if Hitler saw neo-Nazis, he'd gas them all. I mean, they're a bunch of losers, The reality is Nazis are no longer these. There are plenty of them, certainly in the armed forces and in the police forces in Germany, as we've discovered, but it's no longer this top-down structure of Aryan European people. It's a bunch of psychotic, bald, tattooed, wife beater wearing people that call themselves Nazis. But yeah, I look like the Nazi poster boy. Do I look like Rob from The Sound of Music? I am 17, but I'm a Jew.
You do got that look, but you're not. But you, as a good actor, you can become that character based on your frame and look. But
well, Jeff,
in real life, you're super nice.
Thank you. Thank you. Here's the thing. When you play bad guys, I don't want to give my secret away, but I'll give my secret away. If you're already dubbed a bad guy, or if you do bad things, you don't have to play a bad guy. Let me give an example. I just had the pleasure and joy of doing 6 episodes of The Flight Attendant on HBO. And I played a CIA agent, Jim Jones, AKA Cloudy Eye Guy. And they put a cloudy contact lens in my right eye. And if you look at me, I mean, if I say I love you, you'd run away. I didn't have to play a bad guy. And in fact, if you actually watch the series, I don't want to give it away, but there's nothing I have to do looking like this and saying, hey, where are you going? What do you mean, hey, where are you going? You're a cloudy eyed dude in a suit following me through an airport. I don't have to kind of.
Yeah, you're going to freak people out. You're going to freak people out. But yeah, so let's spend the next 30, 40, 50 minutes talking about Kaley Cuoco.
I could. What did you want to talk about? I'll listen.
No, I'm kidding. I love her. I just want, but you've worked with her, so I think she's amazing.
I will say this: I have nothing but good things to say about Kaley Cuoco for a number of reasons. One, I think she's a tremendous actress. She's funny. We all know this, but there are a couple scenes in this last season of The Flight Attendant that will tear your heart out. And she's not doing it from a put-on place. She really goes there. There are not a lot of people who can go there. She absolutely goes there's one wonderful scene where she's talking to her dad over his grave, and I want to cry. She's falling to pieces. Like, who can do that? By the way, she played 4 or 5 characters. She had to memorize all those lines, and she's a producer of the show. I have never been on a show where people took care of me as well as Kaley Cuoco's production company. They sent me holiday gifts. They treated me like a king. She's the best. Really.
That's awesome. Yeah,
and by the way, I die at the end of the season, so I'm not saying this to get another season. I mean,
spoiler. No, she's great. I talked to a friend of mine, Brian Bihar, who was on, I can't remember the John Ritter show that she was on.
Oh, when she was really young. Yeah.
Yeah. But that she was just brilliant. Like Jennifer, like the next Jennifer Aniston breakout, like that good of a comedic actress, like early on, great in Big Bang Theory.
I'm telling you, if she manages to avoid the traps of being a star when you're young, she's gonna go all the way through a very, very storied and really impactful career. So good for her. I'm sorry I don't have any dirt on her. I don't. I think
I didn't want dirt. I wanted to hear good stuff. I just more like the joy of working with Kaley.
Yeah, and she's lucky enough to be beautiful. Isn't that great? mean,
Yeah,
what,
I mean, you and I are cursed with the same that same.
yeah, I know. Thank goodness this is radio.
Ah. So, speaking of, let's go back to Nazis for a second. So, which was your
Oh,
favorite Nazi to play? Which?
I gotta tell you, but I'm on the Amazon series Hunters, and one of the things I loved about it, again, because we know who I am, I didn't have to play that. I played a father of five. I played someone who just worked his ass off for 6 months and finally came home, was exhausted, my feet are sore, and that's it. Now, if you know what I did, you know I'm a monster, but the reality was I'm playing a human being. And it's very interesting that you asked that question because when I was in high school, a Holocaust survivor came and spoke to us, and she talked about being in that line where someone points whether you live or die. Hey, let's talk comedy. No, it's points where you live or die. And she said the man who is standing at the front of that line making the decisions, an officer, she had heard violin playing out of a window every night. And she looked at his hands and realized that he was the violinist and that he was the one making the decision. And there is a cutoff. You know, if you look at the insurrectionists on January 6th, when they weren't doing that, you would probably have a conversation with these people, but there's something wrong. And that's the interesting thing about story, which is that story will tell you that the person has done something wrong without your having to play it sometimes. And then, of course, sometimes, you know, you are in a scene where you are killing someone and then you go there, you know, if you're playing someone evil.
Got it. Great. I love, as a Jew myself, also, who's never played a Nazi, but I enjoy shows where they're hunting Nazis. It's just, it's a natural thing. And
They can't kill enough Nazis as far as I'm concerned.
no,
They can just kill them all day long.
no, and everyone, Hunters is on Amazon Prime, and I recommend it to everyone. It's a really good show as well. Al Pacino's in it and others, and it's interesting because it's probably fiction. There's a thread of some realness to it. It talks about this Operation Paperclip, where the United States brought over the genius people who happen to also be Nazis and helped us with our space program and helped move us faster than, say, the Russians or anything like that. But the price they paid, the soul they gave up, was that these were Nazis that just earlier had been killing Jews and others, you know, left and right without.
Yeah, but they were excellent consultants.
Right.
So, you know, you got to give them that.
Right.
You know, for a bunch of murderous bastards, they were really good at helping.
Right. They could handle a boardroom well.
Yeah, and what's really interesting is Kate Mulvaney, who's on the show. She's wonderful. She's a well-known Shakespearean actor in Australia. She had also just played Richard III. And Al Pacino had played Richard III. So it's really interesting to have conversations, you know, about that character on set. So yeah, it's a really talented cast. And Jordan Peele and David. Oh no. David is wonderful. Don't remember David's last name. The showrunner. They shopped it around and pitched it. David Weil, I think.
Weil, yeah. Cool. All right. Well, I guess so. What was your second favorite Nazi then?
Interesting. You know, if you have ever played a first-person shooter, I speak German, by the way, so I speak a few languages.
Like a handful of languages.
I do a lot of German looping, a lot of German voices. If you've ever been in a first-person shooter game and you've had like a Nazi sneak up on you and you've shot him in the face, that was probably my voice. So one of my favorite was I did a Medal of Honor recently. One of the first VR immersive first-person shooters, where literally, if you throw a grenade, you have VR gloves on. You put your hand near your mouth, you pull it away, and you actually make the gesture to throw a grenade. So it's really cool. And I played, you know, when you play these utility characters, these smaller characters, it's actually like 5-6 days of work because they record like 1,000 lines, like "Wo ist der? Er ist hier, komm," you know, and It's great because it is a workout. It is a full emotional workout from like getting blown up to, your friend dying to sneaking up on someone. I have so much fun with those. Really, I do.
Oh, I think I saw Con Man with Alan Tudyk. I think there's a scene where he's doing that. Him and two other people are doing voices, and they're like, "All right, now like you just took it to the shin," or now, like, and it just kept doing it over and over again. So,
Yeah.
like, yeah.
Yeah. Can I make a boiling in oil sound a little better? Like no, a little bit less throat. It's
It's impressive. It must be impressive though how they can catalog all of those so that they actually know that they have them and can use them when they need to.
oh yeah, I guess for $2 billion, I think you might have a system down. I mean, those games make so much more money than anything else in media. It's ridiculous. Not only do they sell the game, but they sell monthly subscriptions. If you want to power up and get certain weapons, there's another $9.99. It's a thing, and it's a great, it's a great income. So yeah, they have hundreds of people that work on these games. One person's only job is to categorize every little sound clip I say and put it in my character and know in what situations, they add some variables that should be used. It's fascinating.
Yeah. You did Star Wars ones too.
A couple. I did Lego Star Wars. I loved Lego Star Wars. I played the stupidest stormtrooper ever. I just kept dying no matter what I did. And I'm like, oh, what's in there? Boom, that kind of thing. And then I played Jax, a droid.
Very cool. Yeah, Tales from Galaxy's Edge?
Yeah. I got to tell you, man, working with those ILM people is like a dream come true. It's just, they're the best in the business. And, anything Star Wars. I do it for free. Don't tell anyone. I do it for free.
I would too if they would hire me. Drop my name. I need some work. Well, while we're on voices, Doom Patrol.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's so much fun. It's based on a DC comic, and I play Shipley, the sarcastic time machine. Like I'm constantly basically I narrate the person's inner life, and I'm constantly doing these little jabs at them for their own personality foibles. It's a great time.
It's a fun show for those who think Brandon Fraser is just making a comeback now. He's been doing Doom Patrol since 2019. So here's my question: is he in that suit? I mean, he wouldn't take that role and be in the suit. That just seems so crazy to me. Or is it just his voice?
It's like the guy who voices Darth Vader. What's his name? Jimmy Earl something. Yeah, he's never on set with Lucas doing it. He's David Prowse is just going like this, and nobody can see it, but I'm just rocking back and forth, and then he's going, "I am your father," in a booth somewhere.
James Earl Jones signed over the voice to Star Wars.
Yeah, I'll do it.
You should go ahead, do it.
Wait, I need a. Oh damn! I usually like to have a real picture. Like if you're in a comedy club, you grab an empty pitcher of beer because it makes a nice, like, I am your father. It's not quite.
It was good. I'll add some effects to it.
All right, thanks. I appreciate it. Give it a little reverb.
I'll give it a little reverb. We'll do it. We'll do it up. When did you have time to learn French, Japanese, German, and Hebrew?
Well, I was a language nerd in school. When I was in 7th and 8th grade, I spent 2 summers abroad in France. I was a French Boy Scout for the first summer. So I right in the Alps on the French-Italian border, and I sort of learned survival skills and French. And then the second year, I went to Paris in a little town called Bagnères-de-Luchon, which is by the Spanish border. And then the next year, I learned German in school, and I lived in Germany with a family. And then my sophomore year of college, I decided when I got really serious about karate, one of my mentors, a gentleman named Stan Schmidt from South Africa, one of his students was my martial arts teacher at Yale. Stan Schmidt came to visit and did some weekend work. He's the highest ranking non-Japanese person on the planet. He's phenomenal martial artist, completely dedicated. All of his students in South Africa are badasses. And he said, Erik, you should go to Japan and train. I went, what? And so with a letter of recommendation from my sensei, Master Okazaki in the United States, I went and lived in Japan and trained twice a day, 6 days a week at the Hoitsukan Dojo in Tokyo. And I learned Japanese the hard way. That's all I want to tell you. I speak fluent karate Japanese and broken Japanese.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah, I taught English there. I lived like a student. The walls there was a dormitory in Tokyo. My room was half again as wide and as deep as my single bed, and the walls were sticky. But it was $250 a month, and my only obligation was to train 6 days a week. And everyone was better than I was. Almost everyone had graduated college, was a higher rank than I was, and had just gone to Japan to train so that they could become chief instructors of the countries they're from. So Sensei Rene is now chief instructor of Chile. There are people Sensei Rai is now the chief instructor in Indonesia. These guys were fully dedicated martial artists. And about halfway through, I really want to work on Richard III. So I learned that. Yeah, and Hebrew because I'm a hit. I'm a yid. So there you go.
So am I, but I never fully learned it. A word here or there. But even when I went to Israel, I never picked anything up. But
yeah, it's real hard to learn Hebrew. I'll tell you, I was a Reform Jew, then a conservative Jew, then I used to daven with the Orthodox Minyan at Yale, and then I became a Jew-ish. You know,
it's about right.
Yeah.
It's similar.
Yeah, well, right, when I became growing up, I threw away childish things. Or is that the New Testament? I don't
know. All right, so when you're not playing Nazis, Charles Manson.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, there we go. I played Charlie. I did. Wow. Blast from the past. 2000.
Yeah, the Beach Boys movie. The Beach Boys, An American Family. 2000. Yeah, this is going way back.
Yeah, this was very interesting, Jeff. How this happened. I was about to head to New York to do a gig at Caroline's and then to do 2 colleges in North Carolina. And my manager called and said, you have an audition. It's a strange audition. I said, what for? He said, Charles Manson. I'm like, what? Yes, let's do that. So, halfway through reading Helter Skelter, I did the audition, flew to Caroline's, did a set, was literally driving down to North Carolina to do my first college. And I got a call. Hey, Erik, you got a call back. I'm like, of course, now I get the call. So I did my first college. I drove back to New York, flew to Los Angeles, rented a car, drove to the audition, did my callback, drove back to the airport, flew back to New York, and drove back down to my second gig in North Carolina. And I booked the role.
That's awesome.
And this was before the internet. Thank you. And it wasn't all online. So I had to go. I called Vincent Bugliosi, who's since passed, who wrote Helter Skelter and was the lawyer who litigated against Charles Manson and got the family indicted and everything else. And I interviewed him. And then I went to this place that people in LA might know if they're a certain age called Kim's Video. And it's Blockbuster was around, lots of other, but Kim's Video had these just great, rare, strange, funky, fun videos. And one of them was a documentary that the Manson family made about the Manson family back around 1968. And the reason I say that is because, if you went to the Museum of Television and Radio, you'd see Tom Brokaw's interview with Charlie Manson. And that was after he'd been arrested, carved the swastika in his forehead, and was a bit of a gangster. Back when, the Helter Skelter murders happened, everybody was looking for a guru. The Beatles had the Maharishi. Everyone was, dropping out and tuning in, or tuning in and dropping out. And Charlie Manson likened himself, he said, I studied Scientology, I'm a clear, and this, that, and the other. And he just manipulated people and made them part of like a culty spiritual thing. And I'm like, that's the vibe I want. And in this documentary, we had that Charlie. So I just watched it over and over and over again. And, I had 2 months to prepare. Central Library had all this information in Los Angeles because this is where it happened. And then I went on set of the Beach Boys American Family, and I was surrounded by these beautiful hippie women that had been cast for the show. And then in walks Dennis Wilson. I'm like, what's with all this Beach Boys shit? And I realized, oh man, I'm ready. It hadn't even dawned on me that this show was about the Beach Boys, even though I knew it was. And it was really cool because that's what Charlie was about. Yeah, whatever, Beach Boys. I got some music, man. And they had me write some music for this because they didn't want to ask Charlie for permission to use his music. By the way, I listened to his albums over and over and over again. So yeah, I wrote a song and I played this role. And they put me in this wig and this beard, and they completely transformed me. I think they may have won an Emmy for makeup and costume that year because they did some amazing work on this show. And yeah, it was a complete immersion in that world. And since there have been like 10 people who have played Charles Manson in different things, I'm actually thinking of calling them all, along with the hell's his name was in Helter Skelter. I'm so glad I'm not going on stage today because if I can't remember names, we're in trouble. And I'll go into some bar in Los Angeles, like everyone has ever played Manson, and having drinks together. That would be fun.
That would be nice. All right, so I have to ask you about Firefly because I can't think of a TV series, a one season TV series that has, so much mythos around it. So you were on one episode of Firefly.
I was. I didn't really know the show at the time, but as soon as I saw the set, I'm like, this is awesome. And I find it really interesting when a series has a cult following like that. Because you got to ask yourself why. Why does that have the cult following and Space 1999 didn't? Or all these other shows. And I think it was because, there was a certain degree of freedom that these characters had on a sociological perspective, and yet they still had trials and tribulations of being in the situation they were on that ship. And I think people really somehow just connected with it.
Yeah, it was a good show. I mean, people still talk about it to this day. It's been 20 years. So
yeah, it was on the Fox lot. You walk in there and you realize one of the things everybody has to understand is that we as actors, we walk into a situation where people have done sometimes, if it's not a series, if it's just a movie, sometimes if people have done 1 to 2 years of work on this before you even walk in. And you walk in and you look at the production design, you're like, this is not a bunch of people's lives, and they put their passion into this, and I'm grateful to be here. And Firefly was one of those. It was really, really carefully put together, meticulously, and with love. And I always say, like, if you're on a Steven Spielberg set and there's a little figurine in the background on a shelf, you can bet that the best person in the business to do that, obsessed over like 9 figurines to pick that one figurine that somehow fits the movie right in the back there. And that's how I felt about, that set and the people who did the work on it.
That's awesome. That's great to hear. That's really, really cool. Yeah, and then you've been on every NCIS and CSI.
Haven't done an NCIS Hawaii yet, but
get your agent on that.
Go and I play a FBI Deputy Director Sweeney, and if they had me on Hawaii, they'd either have to wait and have me play a completely different character, or I'd have to be Sweeney because now I'm sort of kind of part of that universe. So you
were someone different every time.
In NCIS New Orleans, I played a Russian operative, a horrible human being. In NCIS LA, I played a German sex trafficker, another sweet dude. And then I got to play Deputy Director of the FBI. So that's a nice shift. Although I'm the antagonist. This character is the antagonist, which is really interesting to me because I can't see it that way. Just to kind of give you an overview, Gary Cole's character, Parker, what worked for my character, worked at the FBI, and he disobeyed my orders, so I fired him. Next thing I know, he's over at NCIS. like, oh, you kind of failed upward. And then he is possibly guilty of murder. He's a suspect. NCIS protects him, and I have to hunt him down, but I'm the bad guy. And the only reason I'm the bad guy is because of story. Everybody except for me knows he didn't do it. Everybody, the audience, everybody. I didn't know he didn't do it, and I'm hunting him down, so I'm the bad guy.
Well, it is Gary Cole.
It is Gary Cole. I love him. I think he's, you know what? This has happened to me before. I got to work with Pierce Brosnan on a film called Some Kind of Beautiful. I remember meeting him for the first time. It was very strange because it's similar to NCIS. This happened with Mark Harmon and with Pierce Brosnan. I hear Erik, and I turn around, and there's Pierce Brosnan. I swear the first thing out of my mouth was, "You are way too good looking." And he just, I mean, Pierce Brosnan is just beautiful. I mean, he was like, you know, an older dude at that point. And he shook my hand and he laughed. He said, "Thank you so much for coming to the set. Was so glad to have you, Erik." Like he knew my name. And by the way, Mark Harmon was the same way. He said, "Erik." And I turned around and there he was in a makeup chair. And I'm like, "Didn't you retire?" He said, "Yeah, but I'm back for a haircut." It was very sweet. You know, with his hair person had been there for years. He was there. I got to meet him. And Gary Cole is such a good replacement because he is way too handsome. He's charismatic. He is a terrific actor. He's done some great work. And he is a perfect person to take over sort of the head of NCIS, Mark Harmon's job gives, you know?
Absolutely. Ah, that's so cool. So what are you working on now?
A lot, actually. I never stop. When I'm not on set, I'm taking 4 classes a week. I mean, I'm literally working on a scene from Doubt right now. I'm working on Hamlet, a short film that I made. It's called Guru Money. It took us 6 years to make. It is a music video. Check out sadasat.com, SADASAT, SADASAT.com. It's a music video about a woman who tries a shortcut to enlightenment and ends up getting trapped up in the mental and physical and financial games of a fake guru. I play the fake guru, and I wrote this hip hop song a number. There's a story. I'll tell you the story. Right.
Sure.
I took Kundalini yoga for years. In fact, my wife Rita and I, we were married by one of the instructors at Golden Bridge, a guy named Sadasat Singh. He's great. And I used to go there, and I go, "What's your name?" And they go, "My name is Guru Dev Naham Naham. What's your name?" "My name is Gurmukh." And I realized that Yogi Bhajan, sort of the head of the organization, gave them all their names. And they said, "What's your name?" I'd say, "Erik." And that didn't sound right. So after a while, they say, "What's your name?" I say, "My name is Sadasat." Bing! And we get a laugh. And so I started writing this rap song. "My name is Sadasat. Bing! Yoga's my thing. I make guru money and it goes ka-ching." And my wife said, "You have to write this song." So 8 years ago, I wrote this song. And then 7 years ago, my wife said, "We have to make a music video." I'm like, "What?" She said, "Yeah, record the music." So she was our producer all the way through. She did a tremendous job, went through 3 different groups of musicians till I found the one. Carl got it immediately. If it's very based on the sort of flow of that Diggable Planet song called Cool Like Dat. Then I got in the best shape of my life. 2017, I trained 6 days a week for this. I was already doing CrossFit, but I got shredded for this. We shot it, started editing. I realized we had to shoot more. Then a year later, I had to get back into shape, into the exact same shape. It crushed me. We shot again, and then we spent a couple years editing, and then COVID. Then COVID happened, and after everything was done, I said, "You know what? We need to shoot more." So last fall, 2021, Susan, our lead in the music video, we shot the bookends of this music video at her place, finished all the visual effects. I can't tell you, Jeff, how many visual effects. It's all visual effects with green screen shooting and everything else. And I'm real proud of it.
While everyone's checking out that video, don't forget to head over to Erik Passoja's YouTube channel and check out his Peter the Demon video.
Oh my God. I forgot about Peter the Demon.
225,000 views. You didn't forget about Peter the Demon. You check that daily.
Yeah, check it daily. It's like, it's the only thing I can masturbate to. No, it's interesting. He was taking a drink. You didn't see this, but it almost came out. I was shooting a movie a number of years ago, and they had me in full Damon makeup, and there was a lot of waiting. I think it was a student film, and they were just trying to kind of get it together. And I had like hours in this demon makeup. So I put on a powder blue shirt, Oxford shirt. I had one of the producers hold a camera to me, and I pretended I was a demon looking for a date on Match.com. We just improvised for like 5 minutes. Then we cut it up, and I just put it on YouTube, and I called it Eligible Bachelor. And like within weeks, it had gotten tens of thousands. I think someone was looking for an eligible bachelor or something like that. And they saw this demon thing and they, what the hell is this? And they started watching, and it just, yeah. And then we ended up making a series, pitching a series, a web series called No Place Like Hell. It's about Peter, a demon who's been banished to Earth because he's too nice. And he's living with his roommate, Kira, who is this gorgeous all-American Satanist. And she wants nothing more than to have demon babies with him. But he's in love with, he's a meter maid, by the way. I mean, what a better job for a demon than giving people parking tickets. But he's in love with his boss, Ubiquita, who's played by Retta from Parks and Rec. You probably know Retta. She's an amazing person, amazing comedian.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we've got that shot, and we've been shopping it around. We'll see. I still have faith in that piece, but it all came from that video, Jeff.
That's hilarious. The last thing for me is because I was obsessed with this show in its day, Nip Tuck. You were on Nip Tuck.
Yeah. It's very funny. The link with this, I did Charmed a number of years ago. And it just so happens that my episode of Charmed was Julian McMahon's star turn first episode of Charmed. So he became sort of a star, got Nip Tuck. And then Julian McMahon and I got to work together on Nip Tuck. I play a guy who is suffering from AIDS and want to build up my face again because I've sort of fallen apart. And clearly I had the money to do so. So I went to them to get help. And yeah, you know, working with that team, I mean, we see where it's gone. Ryan, what's
Murphy?
Ryan's last? Ryan Murphy, thank you. I'm so glad I'm not on stage today. And Jeff's like, Ryan Murphy.
Sometimes it comes to me, and sometimes I have days where they don't come to me. You know, sometimes I surprise myself where I'll just be like, boom, you know what I mean? But I was it's all right.
Yeah.
I got your back. I got your back.
Thank you. I appreciate that. You know, Ryan Murphy has gone on to create some amazing shows from Glee to American Horror Story to, the O.J. Simpson trial story. I mean, Versace. And so it was a real interesting opportunity. And it had a little bit of that Charmed feel to it. It had a little bit of that production feel of, well, the whole thing about Nip Tuck is it was about shallowness on a level.
Right.
It really was. But it was also about the dark side of humanity. And what was really nice is I played someone, you wouldn't know this until you saw my scene. I played someone who was gay and just amazingly attracted to Julian McMahon. So here I am sitting in the scene with him, and I'm just looking at him like I'd like to kiss this guy. And he's got my face, and he's looking at my face to see the work he's done. And I'm feeling like he's grabbing my face and coming to kiss me. So it was a really interesting juxtaposition of the work to say, what if I pick something that's not on the page, which is the most fun, by the way. If, for all of you who are aspiring actors right there, 95% of the actors who go in for an audition or do a role are playing what's on the page. It's the other 5% who blow your mind. It's the other 5% who make a choice that make you go, oh, she's rocking a baby. Oh, isn't that a sweet baby? No, she's rocking the baby, trying to get it to shut up, because if she doesn't, the bad guy's going to find her. That's a choice that may not even be in the scene. But if she's trying to get it to shut up, you can't take your eye off that person. So in that particular scene, I had the opportunity to be immensely attracted to him.
He's a good looking guy, so I'm not going to say that was a stretch.
Well, yeah,
Gay or not gay. He's a good looking
the
dude.
other way, but that's what we do. We substitute. He was my wife. He was my wife.
It was a very powerful scene. You did. You were fabulous.
Thank you.
Bravo.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bravo. So where can people keep up with you on the socials?
Yeah, Erik Passoja on Facebook, Erik Passoja on Instagram, Erik Passoja on Twitter. I'm going to spell it for you. Ready? E-R-I-K. That's right. If you got it, E-R-I-K, Passoja, P-A-S-S-O-J-A. That's like football pass to O.J., who's out of jail, A. Erik Passoja.
I'll put a link in the show notes.
Thank you. I
Erik
appreciate it.
Passoja, that's exactly how you spelled how it's.
Everyone smokes weed while listening to your podcast, Jeff. No one's going to remember.
Whatever gets them through it. Erik, thank you so much. I really enjoyed speaking with you and meeting you. It's so fun.
Thank you. It was so fun talking to you. I really love what you do, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.